Hey, everybody. Here we are. Here we are, man. Monday morning. That's it. How are you all doing? Nice seeing you. Hope you're doing good. I'm doing good. Wow. Wow. Where do I start? So much to talk about today. Uh, my computer broke that I do the podcast on, and I six trips to the Apple store, and I'm okay now. Wow, it was a trip. First, I took my screen in because the cat had bit my screen, the cable on my screen. I thought, oh, maybe the cat bit the cable, and that's why it's not working, because there was all this bites in it. So I took it in. They replaced the cable. I brought it back. It didn't work, So I went back to the Mac store. They told me it was going to be a 2-hour wait. I went, because I didn't have an appointment. So I came back, and then I went back. They replaced the cable. It didn't work. So then I took my computer in. I have a Mac Studio and this little chubby little computer. I took it in, and they said, it's working fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I went, So then I come back, and then I took my, they says you have to bring both your screen and your computer in because it still wasn't working and everything's checked out. So I took my screen and my computer in, and they got it working, and here I am. What kind of story is that? I start my day with a dumbass story, but that's life here in Podcastville. Anyway, I have so many questions. You guys ask me so many questions. I don't know if I can even get them all in today. That's how many questions you ask me. Anyway, let me see. Mount Tam, yeah. I lived on Mount Tam, actually, up on Level Avenue. So, and then later I lived up at the very top of that side of the hill there, Yeah. Anyway, at Mount Tam, I have a lot of great memories. Back when mountain bikes were first starting, before there was mountain bikes for sale, they were building them from scratch there. So, in fact, I still have my original mountain bike from Mount Tam way back then. And we took the brakes off a bicycle built for two, had drum brakes. So we took those drum brakes and we made wheels and hubs, and they didn't even have alloy rims then, so we made them we used 3/4 weight rims, and it was trick. There was a store in Mill Valley, and they would build them, and there was other people building them. So that was the very beginning of the whole mountain bike thing. But my kids were real little, like real little. And I used to take one, and Mary used to take the other, and we both had bikes, and somebody would drive us up to the top of Mount Tam because it's quite a ways. And you could coast down 14 miles, and you'd go by a couple of lakes. Hello, big kitty. Well, look who's here today. It's Happy Kitty. Happy Kitty. So we would cruise along, and he's so happy the keyboard's not here. I can't believe it, man. When the keyboard's here, he rebels and he refuses to come. So that's my story of Mount Tam. I used to take my kids up there when they were real little. Like Mika was 1 and Kevin was 3, and we would go up there, and you could coast down Mount Tam for like 14 miles, and you go by 2 different lakes, and you wind up in Lagunitas. Anyway, it was a fucking amazing time. It was an amazing time, and it was really fun, and we had our kids in the back of our bikes, and we were cruising along, man. It was so cool. Anyway, that's really cool. So I answered the question about Mount Tam. I'm answering questions. That's what I'm doing. Levan. Drake never played with me live, but he was a really good friend of mine, and he saw me play one time. That story I told about playing at the pizza parlor when Hendrix and everybody showed up. Drake was there that night, and he befriended me, and he gave me a whole PA, a big Sun PA system, and I used that for years. He just gave it to me. They were Paul Revere and the Raiders, and they were on TV, and they were sort of famous and all, and he was really nice to me. It didn't have to be. He was really nice. Anyway, we became friends for a long time, forever, and Drake was a great guy, and I really liked him. Yeah. You didn't really like them. I got to blow my nose because I always blow my nose on the podcast. I don't know why, but that's what I do. So how are you doing out there, man? You guys have some questions. I can't believe all the questions you have. Let me see what we got here. Mary and Jeff Beck. Okay, everybody asked me about Mary and Jeff Beck over and over. I get questions. Somebody said they saw the Tammy show and Mary was there with Jeff Beck. And well, Mary was Jeff Beck's girlfriend for a while. By the time I met her, they'd just broken up recently before I met her. You know, I don't know how long before, but they were no longer together. And I'll tell you a story about one time when I was a street kid and I was standing out in front of the whiskey with my friend Jack Tana, and we were standing out there, and he says, "Oh, look, there's Jeff Beck and Mary Hughes." And Jeff Beck was carrying Mary across the intersection in front of the whiskey, like carrying her like a bride or something. And he was walking across, and we were thinking, "Oh, wow, there's Jeff Beck, and there's Mary Hughes." And I realized Mary Hughes, that's that girl I saw in San Francisco at when the Birds played, you know, that I thought was so cool. And there she is. She's Jeff Beck's girlfriend. So that's the story of that. And anyway, they weren't together. And so they asked me. And so when I met Mary, she was sort of famous, and she had a house in Hollywood right above the Chateau Marmont on Hollywood Boulevard. And so we lived there, you know. Her and I, we met and we instantly clicked. It was just the weirdest fucking thing, you know. We just clicked. Like, you know how you click with somebody? Man, we clicked. We met each other. We just clicked. I don't know how to explain it other than that, man. And when I met Mary, she weighed about 87 pounds, man. She was 5'9" and weighed 87 pounds. She was starving herself. She was living on Lifesaver. She'd eat one Lifesaver for dinner. And I go, no. So the first night we met, I told her, I said, "You got to go to the market and buy some food and cook us some food." And she looked at me because she was like some kind of celebrity, you know. I said, no, you got to do that. We got to eat. You got to eat. And so she went to the store and she bought some food and she brought it back. I didn't even go with her. I sat in the car or something. She went in and she bought the food. She brought it back and she cooked it. Maybe that's the first time she cooked food for anybody. I don't know. But from that moment on, we were together forever, man. It was just like we never parted after that. We sat there and ate that food, and it was like there was some kind of connection, you know. And yeah. And she became the mother of my kids. So it's really funny. And over the years, different times, like when I used to work out at Gold's Gym here in Venice, you know. I don't know why, but I did. Until I worked out there, and you know, when I quit going there was when I noticed everybody was sick. Everybody, everywhere I looked, people were snotting, and they were all sick, and they were on the machines and sweating their sickness onto the machines. And all of a sudden I went, whoa, everybody's sick here, you know, and I never went back. I was just so blown out. Anyway, Mary was really cool. I'll tell you, when I first started going out with Mary, one time we came home, and I've gone out with her. It's really funny, like from the time we got together, we never were separated after that forever. It was the weirdest thing. But one time we came back home to Mary's house, and Eric Clapton was sitting up in her tree. He was because she had dated Eric Clapton after Jeff. Anyway, he was sitting up in the tree, and so she said, "Well, go in and I'll speak to him." And so she told him that she was with me now, and you know, and he was cool about it. Anyway, that's the story of Mary Hughes, man. Sometimes, like I'd be working out at Gold's Gym, and somebody would come up and go, "You married Mary Hughes?" And I go, "Yeah." And they were just old guys were like blown out, man. They were. Mary Hughes was like some kind of beach bunny hero, you know. She was in all the beach party movies, and I think she was in an Elvis movie or two. She was just one of those girls, you know. She was just amazing, man. Anyway, I wound up being with Mary. I'll tell you how I met Mary. I was at the whiskey sitting at a table. I was by myself at a table. I don't know why. I was sitting there at this little table, and Mario says, "I'm going to sit these people with you." And he brought Mary and Peter Bryn. Now, Peter Bryn is the brother of Donald Bryn, who bought the Irvine Ranch. You know Irvine, they own all of Irvine. That's pretty big. Anyway, super, you know, rich kind of people. And Peter was a friend of Mary's. And so Peter and Mary were there, and they sat at my table. Now, you got to understand, I didn't have any shoes on. I didn't wear shoes then. And So under the table, we kept bumping each other, not on purpose, but accidentally, because it was a tiny little table and the place was really crowded, And I didn't think anything of it, but here I was sitting at the table with the girl that I'd seen, and it was the girl of my dreams, I'd seen her forever, but I didn't even talk to her when we were at the table because she was with Peter and they were watching the music and I was sitting there. But her and I kept bumping each other, not on purpose, but just bumping each other. So she had a whole posse of girls. She had a little posse of girls that were like, she was the queen bee and these girls kind of hung around her. And so all of a sudden people were telling me, Mary Hughes wants to go out with you. And I was thinking, what? Mary Hughes wants to go out with me, and I was just barely off the street at that point, It was just the weirdest thing because she was going out with the most famous people and I was fucking on the street, you know what I mean? But anyway, at this point, I think I had one album. My first album came out and it wasn't doing much, but my first album was out. But anyway, man, she told her little posse, let me know that she wanted to go out with me. And we went out and, man, we were never apart after that forever. I mean, there wasn't from that moment on, we were inseparable. It was the weirdest thing. Yeah. It was the weirdest thing. So that's it, man. So my whole life, old guys would come up to me and tell me, you married Mary Hughes. Well, I felt, yeah, I did. And that was cool. Yeah. But she became Mary Michaels and she liked that. And I liked it. Anyway, we had great kids. And that's our story, man. That's the story of Mary. See, you asked me that story, I tell you, okay, I gotta take my pen out here and click off the stories. Okay, Mary. Okay. Oh, somebody asked me about this gig I played in the late 70s at the boarding house. Now, I remember that gig well, and I played it, and I had a little agent and booked me in the gig, and I played really good that night. You know, some nights you play and you think you played really good, and other nights you play and you think you played shitty. And sometimes when you play shitty, people will tell you, "Oh, that was the best you've ever played." And sometimes when you play good, people will tell you it sucks. So I don't know what that means, but I played at the boarding house, and the next day my agent called me and he says, "What happened last night?" And I go, "Man, I played the best gig of my life, man." I says, Here's another thing. I always wanted to play good in San Francisco, and I always played bad in San Francisco. I don't know why, but every time I played in San Francisco, I didn't play as good as I wanted to play. I always felt like, I wanted to play better, because I lived there and I wanted to play better, I wanted to play better. So so I tell my agent, yeah, I played the best I've ever. I was so happy because finally I played good. After all those years, I finally had a good gig in San Francisco. I finally played where I thought, wow, I finally played good in San Francisco. And my agent calls me up. He goes, "What happened?" I says, "Well, I played the best gig of my life last night." He goes, "Well, that's not what I heard." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "The owner of the club, the promoter was really upset." And I go, "What do you mean?" He said it was the worst show he'd ever had in his club, the worst show he'd ever had in his club. Now imagine that. I thought it was the best. It was one of the best times I'd ever played in my life. It was one of those shows. It was really great. And not many people were there, but it didn't matter. It was finally I played good in San Francisco. And this guy said it was the worst show he'd ever saw. He would never book me again. And he was pissed at my agent for even booking me in there. He says it was the worst. Maybe he thought it was the worst because a lot of people didn't show up. I don't know. But he thought it was worse. But anyway, somebody commented on that and said it was a great show. And I'm so glad you thought it was a good show. You were one of the few people there because I thought it was great too. And he thought it was shitty. And that was really fun. In fact, after that show, that agent really didn't want to book me too much anymore. He was kind of over me, because he thought it was the worst show in the world, and he didn't want to book me at other places and have them tell him how terrible I was. So it was you never know when you play. It's like Russian roulette. You play and you think you played good, and somebody else thinks you played horrible. Somebody asked me about Slab City. I'm from California. If they asked me about Slab City, that's down by the Salton Sea for you that don't know about it. It's a place that's this lawless community where these people just sort of like live, and they live in buses and funky things and little structures, and it's just a lawless place. It's one of the most lawless places in the country, and for some reason it's allowed to exist, and these people have been there for eons, and it's very dangerous to go there. Like, unless you know somebody there, it's not a safe place to go to. And I don't think I would go there, But the salt, it's right by the Salton Sea. And when I was a kid, we lived in Indio, and we used to go to the boat races at the Salton Sea. And the Salton Sea had barnacles and shit, so to go in the water, you had to wear tennis shoes. Like, nobody in their right mind would go in that water, but I was a trasher, and I came from trashers, and so we went in the water. The water was full of trasher kids, Anyway, it was pretty crazy. But somehow out of all that, this Slab City place exists. So if you've never heard about Slab City, go on the internet and go on YouTube and type in Slab City, and you'll find out about it. Okay, I'm going through all this stuff. I'm hyper today. You would think I had got up and drank coffee or something, but nope. I just woke up exploding. Anyway, I went to my restaurant this morning and ate, and I just got back from the restaurant, and here I am. I hope you're all good. It's so good to see you. I don't know how many, these comments, I don't know. I wish you'd ask me something. I guess you want to hear about the old days, so I'm talking about it, because I run out of stories, so I figured, what the fuck, I'll talk about, whatever. I never saw, somebody asked me about the band Shriver. I never saw the band Shriver. I'm sorry. I never saw them. And somebody asked me if I played other instruments. I'm going through these questions fast because there's so many of them. Somebody asked me if I played other instruments. When I was a little kid, I started on accordion. And then when I was like, 5th, 6th grade, I started playing trombone. I had a saxophone. I didn't like it. I started playing trombone. I played trombone all through high school in the band and everything. And I got in a lot of trouble in the band because I didn't want to march and shit, I just wasn't into marching and doing that, So anyway, the guy, the head of our music department, always wanted to threaten me to throw me out of the band, but I was sort of musical, so he didn't throw me out. And we were a small school, so I guess they needed trombone players. So anyway, I never got thrown out of band, but I was never into the marching thing. I'll tell you something, but I went to Fresno City College, a junior college in Fresno. And the first day I was at Fresno City College, there was a band there, and the band was marching along in that common sort of area. And these guys ran up and punched the band in the stomach and sort of beat them up. I don't know where. These guys just ran up and punched the band. And I thought, I'm so glad I wasn't in a band. And I was sort of like thinking music was my thing, And so, and the head of the music department really hated me because I refused to be in the band. And he wanted me to be in a band, same thing like in high school. And I said, no, I don't want to be in the band. Especially there, I started the first day of school, I see the band get beat up. I think, no, I don't want to go in the band. I don't know why they went up and punched them, but they did. And I thought, well, I was right thinking. I thought, I'm right. I shouldn't be in band, man. It's just lame, I always thought band was lame, marching and all that shit, Anyway, yeah, so that's the other instrument. Oh, somebody asked me about the band Love. I knew Arthur Lee. He used to come over to my house in Mill Valley when I rented this little house, and he would come over there and hang out. But Arthur Lee, man, he was the most weird guy. He was just on his own trip, but he was very, very talented and very unique, And the band Love, I always liked that band. Orange Skies, Carnival and Candy, they had that song, Orange Skies, and I always liked that song. Anyway, I liked Love, and they never really achieved the success I thought they deserved, but they were so quirky and weird, but they were, what was that guy's name that sang Orange Skies? Anyway, Anyway, I like that band. I like Love. I think we did some shows together. I don't know. I can't remember. But I remember I liked them. You know, I liked Love a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't listen to their albums, you know, but I liked them, and I liked a couple of their songs. A couple of their songs were really unique, you know, and they were really great, you know. I really liked that band. It's like they were like one of those bands. They were on their own trip. They were on, and it was really Arthur Lee. He was a very charismatic character. His stage persona. He just had a presence about him. Anyway, I liked Arthur Lee. Let me see. I'm looking here. Yeah. Oh, somebody pointed, my friend Bruce. Hey, Bruce, if you're out there, I know you're out there. Hi, man. My friend Bruce from back in the day, and we're still friends. He pointed out that I played at the Greek Theater in Berkeley, another benefit that Chet promoted, a concert that Chet promoted. That was a really good show. I really enjoyed that. And my son Kevin was born at that time, and Mary was there on the side of the stage. That was a good show, and I really, yeah, I enjoyed that show. That was good. You know, a lot of shows, like I always say, I don't remember all the shows, but I remember every blowjob. So that show was really, yeah, that was a good show. I really enjoyed that. And that was sort of after, you know, it was a sort of after kind of show. It was like after the scene had happened later, they had to show. It couldn't have been that late, though, because my kid was little. Yeah, it was probably 73, 74. Yeah. And Monterey was Chet's fail show. Anyway. Somebody asked me about BB guns. And they asked me if I know the current state of the BB guns. And I'm afraid I don't know that. My gun days are sort of over, you know, especially my BB gun days. That was when we were younger and crazier, and we had BB guns because we were doing BB gun war. But no, I don't know the current state of BB guns. I guess they're pretty far out now. Everything else has improved, so I'm sure BB guns have improved. But we just used to use those Daisy guns, you know. You could buy them cheap. They were like $7.98 or something. We'd buy a bunch of them, you know. Anyway, that was the story of that. I'm going through these questions pretty fast. Oh, I don't want to tell that story today. I don't know what that's doing. Somebody asked me if I get revenue from Killer Shrimp. Yeah, I license the name to Killer Shrimp. My son runs it now, and I get a royalty from Killer Shrimp. So that's how I live. I get money from Killer Shrimp. Yeah, Killer Shrimp supports us all, man. It's an amazing thing. And oh, and somebody else suggested that I have a contest where somebody wins and they get to come eat with me at Killer Shrimp. Man, if you want to eat with me at Killer Shrimp, just go there any morning at 7 o'clock, and there I am, you know, hanging out, eating breakfast. So you don't have to win no contest to come there and hang out and say hello. Just show up and say hi. Win a contest. What kind of contest would that be? Well, we're going to have a contest. It's such a privilege to meet me. Yeah, right. Anyway, you can come meet me anytime, anywhere. People come in. I see people in there when I'm in there, and I go there for lunch and shit too. I eat there all the time. Why? I never go to the market. I just eat at Killer Shrimp. I mean, I go there. They cook the food. They clean the dishes. I don't have to do nothing. I just sit there and eat whatever I want, man. It's a beautiful thing. And they have so many things to choose. Some, you know, you go to a restaurant and there's like one thing you like at that restaurant, you know. I go to Killer Shrimp and I can't figure out what to eat. There's so many good things on the menu. And I'm not saying that because that's our restaurant. I'm saying that because it blows me out. Brett Doherty, who's one of our partners there, is a genius, man. He does the most amazing shit. He comes up with the fucking greatest things. He's just been in the restaurant business for 50 years, and he knows, man. The guy knows. Man, we got so much good stuff on the menu, man. I could just go on and on about how good it is. And I'm not saying that to get you to go there. I'm just telling you what it's like for me. When I go there, I just like I'm going to go there. I meet a friend of mine every Monday for lunch. And I'm going to go to there today for lunch, and yeah, I don't even know what to eat. I start thinking about it the day before. What am I going to eat for lunch tomorrow? And I can't figure out because there's so many things. I just don't know what to eat. Sometimes I just go there and have dessert for lunch. That I shouldn't do that, but I do it. And we have the best apple cobbler. I just blows my mind, man, with this homemade ice cream. It's just fucking phenomenal. Anyway, I never know what to eat there. Oh, every Monday I have lunch with Mary. Mary and I got divorced in 1985, but we still talked every day. We never stopped talking. Every day for her whole life we talked. And yeah. And she married this great guy, and they were married for 17 years, and her and I were married for 17 years, and I always joke I got the best 17, But Paul's a great guy, Paul Zimmerman, and him and I have lunch every Monday, and we've become great friends. In a lot of ways, we're really different. He's a real businessman, and when I went to his birthday, Secretary of General Jim Jones, the head of NATO, was there, and stuff. He's that kind of guy, that's the kind of crowd he runs with. Yeah, he knows all kind of people, high up people, and he's one of those guys. Yeah, and somehow we're so different, but somehow we click, and so him and I, and he's the stepfather of my kids as well. So we're all family in a way. But every Monday we have lunch and we sit there and we talk, and we always have great shit to talk about. We don't, it's amazing. We're not talking just about family or anything. We're just talking about so many things. We've been doing it for years now, and I really always look forward to it. And he does too, and we're the most unlikely of friends, but there we are. We're friends. We're great friends. So that just goes to show you, you never know. You never know. I would never imagine a guy like that would want to hang out with me, but because he runs, he's a businessman. Anyway, he is cool, and he's, that's what I do. I meet him all the time. Let me see what else we got here. You got to bear with me. Oh, somebody asked me about the Rose Palace. There was this place called the Rose Palace in Pasadena. I guess it had something to do with the Rose Parade. They used to do the floats there or something. But they had concerts there, and I played this one concert. Alice Cooper was on the bill, and he went on before me, and it was. I didn't wear shoes then, when I played in my life, I didn't wear shoes. And so he had some chickens on stage. Now, I don't know if he killed the chickens or if he just shook them up or whatever. I don't know what, because I wasn't really watching his show. But when I went on the stage barefoot, there was chicken shit all over the stage. And I was going, what's this? And then somebody told me it was chicken shit. One of my roadies goes, I go, ugh. So there I am walking out of the Rose Palace to play. And there's chicken shit in between my toes and stuff. And I was going, oh, Alice Cooper, chicken shit. Anyway, I met him a couple of times. He was the nicest guy. It's funny, some guys you think they might not be nice, but they turn out to be really nice. And other people are less nice. Okay. Humble Pie. Here's the story of Humble Pie. God, I'm just going through these stories. Somebody asked me about Humble Pie. Yeah. Well, at the Fillmore, Humble Pie on their first tour, they did excuse me, I'm burping. My breakfast was good. Humble Pie on their first tour, they were going to record a live album at the Fillmore, but they were using my crowd because I was a headliner, so it was my crowd, but Humble Pie was the opening act, but they were going to record a live album with my audience, which is, kind of, it is what it is. I was nice to let them do that. I thought I would let them do that. And then they asked me, and I think they were on A&M, the same label as me, so I was trying to be cooperative. And so they wanted to use my audience to record their live album, which was all right with me. And they what was I going to tell you about it? Oh, so they asked me to not do a sound check so they could set their stuff up for recording and everything and do a rehearsal and stuff. And so, so, New York was a really important gig to me. You play in New York, that's the Big Apple. You want to do good. So you always have a sound check in New York because you want to make sure everything's right. But I felt confident enough because I was all friends with all those guys, the former East. I figured, well, they'll do me right. And so I forgo my sound check for Humble Pie. So you got to understand, I let them use my audience to record their live album. I forgo my sound check so they could get it right. And in return, they were bigger in Europe than I was. I was to go on tour with them in Europe, and they would. I would go on tour with them in Europe, and I was going to open for them on a European tour because I wasn't well known in Europe, and they had a following in Europe. So we go to do this European tour, and we go to the first gigs are in Italy, right? I think we played in Rome, and we played in Bologna, and another place called Rimini. But anyway, the first night at the first gig, we go there and they tell us we can only use one slider on the mixer. Now you got to understand, you got all your mics and the mixer's got all these sliders and you adjust them. But their people told us we could only use one slider on the mixer. I mean, they were fucking us. And they told us we couldn't adjust the mics, all the mics that we had to adjust. They told us we couldn't move them. They had to stay in exactly where the place where the adjustments they had. So they totally rat-fucked us. And I was so nice to them at the Fillmore East, and they just rat-fucked us. Now, I never knew if Steve Marriott did that personally, but he had a really horrible manager guy. He was this big, fat guy. And he was a horrible, aggressive, just not a nice guy, And so they were rat-fucking me, man. It was really bad. And so the second gig comes, and they still won't we complained naturally after the first gig. We go, man, what the fuck is this all about? You guys won't even let us adjust the mics to our stuff, and you're telling us we can't use the mixer. We can only use one channel in the mixer. What the fuck are you guys doing to us? And so they did that to us, and so I was getting really mad, man. I'm just like losing my mind. And they're just, and their manager's just a shithead. And so then we played this third gig in Italy, and they did the same fucking thing, And so the next gigs after that were in Germany. You got to understand, in Germany, there's a zillion military bases, U.S. military bases then. And so I was responsible for a great number of the tickets in Germany selling because there was all these people that knew me that were affiliated with the military. And so I thought, after the second gig, I told him, if this happens again, man, I'm out of here. And so that happened a third gig in Italy. They did the same thing. They rat-fucked us totally. And I just was losing my mind, and they weren't doing anything about it, and nothing we could do about it. I was calling the record company. I was freaking out at everybody. And I said, okay, I quit. And so I left. I left the day before the Germany show. Now, I got to understand, I was responsible for a lot of the ticket sales in Germany. And then there was other gigs after that. It was a whole tour. I just left and went back to L.A. Fuck them. And the record company was really upset with me, man. They go, well, how could you do that? I go, how could they do that? Anyway, so I left that tour with a bad taste in my mouth for Humble Pie. And I think after the second time we said something to Steve Marriott or something, hey man, your guys are fucking us over. And they didn't do anything about it, after the second gig. After the first gig, we were complaining. After the second gig, we talked to the band. We says, hey, look, man, your guys are dicking us. How would you feel if we did that? And I let you guys do the Fillmore East. You used my crowd. I let you do the sound check there. I was totally accommodating to you guys. And now you're rat fucking me. And so they sort of listened to my complaints. But then we played the third gig and they didn't do anything about it. They did the same shit. And I just says, we're out of here. So we went back to LA and we booked off that tour. And we booked out of there, man. We fucked them, man. And so that their gigs in Germany didn't go that good because a lot of the audience was there to see us, and so they had to refund a bunch of money. And I don't know, everybody thought I was wrong to leave that tour, but I was absolutely right. I'm not going to go play for all these people and get rat fucked and do bad. And they were just doing that so we'd do bad, you know what I mean? They were doing that on purpose so we wouldn't have a good show. And I think, how fucking weird, after I went out of my way to be good to them, let them use my audience at the Fillmore East. It wasn't their audience, it was my audience. And they, you know, I did everything, and their live album, you know, that's a story of their live album, man. I've been over backwards to help those guys. I didn't know who they were. I just did it because my record company asked me to do it, and I was trying to be a good guy. And they fucked me so. I left the European tour, and everybody was mad at me. I says, "Fuck you all, man." That, you know, that's life. Anyway, that's my humble pie story. Now, Steve Miller. Somebody asked me about Steve Miller. I don't know if I should even talk about that. You know how in your life, you know how some people just don't like you? And you don't actually understand why, but we've all experienced that in our life. You know, somebody who just basically doesn't like you, you know. Like Steve Miller didn't like me. I don't know why. I don't know what I did. You know. Now, you got to understand, at the Avalon Ballroom, when we played gigs with them, and I always really liked his band. I thought they were good. You know, still, Steve Miller Blues Band was good. I liked them. Anyway, we all shared the common dressing room, and I never had any really interactions with them. You know, it's all giant bunch of people in this room, and it was like everybody was on acid, and it was just, you know, that was those days. And, you know, and I didn't think anything of it. We played all those gigs, you know, with the same gigs, and you know, I always thought their band was great and everything. But one time Steve was playing at the Shrine Auditorium in L.A., and I was back in L.A., and I went to the Shrine and went downstairs to the dressing rooms, and I come walking in, and he's sitting there with two girls, and I walk into him and I go, "Hey, Steve, how's it going?" And he looks up at me in the weirdest fucking way and goes, "How's your mother?" He said, "How's your mother?" And he wasn't saying it because he knew my mother or was being concerned. He was just saying, you know, I went in there to say hi. I said, "Hey, Steve, how's it going?" And he goes, "How's your mother?" And the girls laughed, you know, and it was a real awkward moment for me. I was going, and you see how I am, you know, you guys see how I am, you know, this is how I am. I'm just like, you know, I'm not, this is how I am. I always got a smile on my face, and I'm happy to see people. And so I felt so awkward, you know, and then there was a moment of silence, and I was standing there going, and he was just sitting there looking at me like the most cold look you've ever seen, you know, and he was looking at me, and so I left, you know, I sort of says, "Well, okay, see you later, man," and I took off, you know, but it wasn't really embarrassing. It was just shocking. I didn't realize that he didn't like me so much till that moment, you know. And then I realized, oh, well, this guy really doesn't like me, you know. He didn't say, "Hey, Lee, how you doing?" or nothing. It was just, "How's your mother?" and just glared at me, the most cold look you've ever seen. And so I was sort of crushed. So a year or two later, he's recording an album in San Francisco at Wally Heider's studio, and I get a call from this producer, and they asked me if I'll come play on his album, you know. If I'll come play on his album. And so I thought, oh, wow. He asked me to play on his album. I said, "Yeah, I'll play on his album." And I thought, maybe I'll go there and play, and he'll like me, you know. So I thought, well, maybe I can patch this up. And even though he was so rude to me, I thought, well, maybe he'll like me if I go there and play on his album, you know. And so I go to this is a true story, man. You're not going to believe it. I go to this session, and he's there, and the producer, and we're up there, and they got the organ there and stuff. And I go in, and he just doesn't. He's just so cold to me, and he just sort of looks at me, and he says, and I said, "Hi, man," you know, because this is how I'm. "Hi, man." And he just went, "Hi," like that, you know. And I thought, oh, wow. So then I realized at that moment that it was a producer who wanted me on his album, not him, you know. So I thought, oh, then I felt so bad, you know. I felt really bad. Maybe one of the worst times I ever felt the whole time I was playing music was at that session. I should have walked out the door at that point, because I realized he didn't want me there. Somebody else wanted me there. It was shocking, I thought I was shocking, I thought if he hated me so much, why did he agree to have me playing his album, and why did they ask me to do it? So I went and I went into the studio. Hello, hello, hello. He's giving you a butt shot here, the kitty. Why don't you turn around and say hello to everybody? So I go in the studio and I play the stuff. They play the track. I played the organ, but I didn't play really good because I was so blown out. I was so blown out. I was just so blown away because I thought, oh, I'm going to go over there and he's going to like me finally. He won't hate me, and maybe I was wrong. Maybe he didn't hate me, and maybe he'll like me. So I was just going there because I wanted him to like me. And and so he was just cold the whole session. He was cold, and he didn't give me one good vibe, man. Not even a little speck of good vibe did he give me, and I felt so awkward. I felt so out of place, and it all felt so wrong. I felt so crushed. I was really crushed by that. Because I went there just hoping he would like me. And he didn't like me. And so then afterwards, he handed me a W-4 slip, or whatever they call them. It was a slip you give somebody when you pay them. They fill it out, and it's a something kind of slip. I don't know. And he just looked at me. He didn't say anything. He handed me the W-4. He goes, here's a W-4. And I go, forget it. I said, I don't want any money for this. I didn't come here to make money. I'll see you later. And I walked out, and that was the end of that. But he didn't give me one good vibe, man. Not a good vibe. Not a thank you for coming. He didn't thank me for coming. And I knew from the second I arrived there that he didn't want me there. And I thought, why am I here? And I felt like I should walk out, but I told him I'd do it. And I felt like I should walk out, like I was so crushed by that. And all I wanted was for him to like me, So that shows you what you never know in life, Here, look at me. I'll be 80 years old this year, and it still bothers me, that he didn't like me. And I'm sure he still doesn't like me. That's what's so weird, He'll probably didn't like me for his whole life, And what can you do about it? Some people don't like you. But that made me feel bad. Yeah, I felt bad about that. So that's my Steve Miller story. I know you guys asked me about Steve Miller. Now, if you're a big fan of Steve Miller's, because I liked his music, don't hold it against me, because I don't hold it against him. I have no hard feelings. I figure, well, he just didn't like me for some reason. But he really didn't like me. I mean, some people sort of don't like you. No, it was profound how the vibe I felt from him, And I remember thinking, boy, why did they ask me? Why did he agree to have me play on his album? What was I there for? Was he pressured in? I just don't understand, I don't. To this day, I'll never understand my whole life why he didn't like me, but he really didn't like me. There you go. That's my story of Steve Miller. I'll check him off the list here. Let me see if there's anything else. I left Marin County. Asked me when I left Marin County. I left Marin County in 1979 and came back to L.A. because I'm born in L.A. And I was something about L.A., man, it clicks with me. I just feel it, Like when I was really broke and in San Francisco, I would come down to L.A. because it was easier to be homeless and broke in L.A. than it was in San Francisco. It was so cold in San Francisco, you'd freeze your ass off and get sick. But down in L.A., for some reason, I could survive on the streets of L.A., but I couldn't survive up north. It was too cold, I have a John Ford Noonan story. You want to hear a John Ford Noonan story? John's one of my favorite people you got to understand in my whole life. He's dead now, but he was one of my favorite people. And he was crazy. I told you about him. He was crazy. He drove his brother nuts. He was just like nuts. There's never been a more crazy person than John Ford Noonan. One time we're going in this elevator in New York in this hotel. And we get in the elevator and there's two black guys in their elevator. And they're like fuck, like 7 foot tall. They must have been basketball players or something. You know, they were probably staying there. There was some basketball team, but they were giants, 2 giant guys. You know, they were just giants. So we get in the elevator and we're standing there, and this is a true story. It's a true story. John looks at them. He turns around and he looks at them. And you got to understand how he talks. And he was like this big pirate-looking guy. He goes, "Excuse me, can you tell me how many G's in the N-word?" He asked them how many G's in the N-word, but he didn't say the N-word. He said the N-word. But he looks at these 2 guys and we're in the elevator with them, and the door's closed. And he says to them, "How many G's in the N-word?" Now, I thought we were not going to get out of that elevator alive. I figured these guys are going to pound us to death right here. And I kicked John when he said that, man. I couldn't fucking believe he said that. And he wasn't a racist guy. He would just say stuff to trip people out. He wasn't racist at all. But he just said that. That's the kind of shit that would come out of his mouth, man. He would say the most outrageous shit, you know, just like the comment he made to David Crosby. He could just come up with shit that would trigger people. But he said that to these guys, and these guys looked at each other, and they looked at us, and I thought, this is it, man. The door's open. We're going to be on the floor, beat the fuck. You know, I was sure we were going to get beat up at that moment. And they just shook their head, and when they got to the floor, they walked out of the elevator. Man, they walked out of the elevator, the door closed. I go, "John, you fucking asshole. How could you do that?" I couldn't believe he did that, man. It was like, I couldn't believe it. I was just, "John, man, you crossed the line this time. And how could you do that? Oh, you're so fucked." And he'd go, "Oh," and he's just like this big, crazy, wild, fucking crazy guy, man. But that's the kind of guy John was, man. And he was my friend, but he burned a lot of people out, man. There was a lot of people, like even his own brother had a restraining order against him. He was just crazy. Like, he's call up his brother's Tom. He goes, "Tom, I'm going to come over there and kill you and your whole family." And he would say shit like that just to get an effect. He was just so fucking crazy, man. And he was and he would come stay with me in LA, and he was nuts. You know, he was nuts. Bitten and I were here, and John was staying with us, and he would do everything he could to cause trouble among us. And he was just causing trouble every second of his life, man. And he loved it. He loved it. He thrived on controversy, man. It was a pleasure knowing him, man. And he was in my movie anyway. I love John. I miss him, man. Yeah. So I told almost all the stories you asked me. There's one story. I'm too exhausted. I don't have the energy to tell the one last story I didn't tell you. I'll tell you maybe tomorrow or the next day. Anyway, I'm glad to be back. I was really freaked out that my computer wouldn't be working. I would have to leave it there and you know, in fact, the one day I was there and they tell me I had to leave my screen. It would be a couple of days. And I go, no. And they go, "What do you mean?" And I go, and so I played the handicap card because I'm handicapped because I have ankylosing spondylitis. And I don't walk that good. And I'm a little stooped over and a lot stooped over. And so I says, "I don't mean to play the handicap card here." I says, "But I have ankylosing spondylitis and it's really hard for me to walk. I have to think about every step I take." And I go, "It was so hard for me to carry my screen here because you have to park so far away." And I go, "Can't you guys make an exception and repair this thing while I wait?" And so they said, "Well, we'll go ask them downstairs." So they went downstairs and told them they had a handicapped guy who couldn't get back very easily. They repaired it. They said, "Okay." So I had to sit there for an hour while they put a new cable in my screen because a cat bit the cable. Anyway, I don't usually play that card. You know, I don't really play the handicap card too much, but I had to play it at the Apple store because I had to play it, man. I had to play it, you know. Yeah, I did it. I'm guilty. Guilty as charged. How long have we been podcasting? I have no idea. Have I answered all your questions? Don't ask me any more questions. No, you can ask me anything you want. I hope I answered all the questions. I haven't answered that one question, but I'll answer it. Yeah, you know, you're the person who asked it, and I'll answer it. But today, not today. that's a whole story. And that was a really amazing moment. And it's such a good story. I'll keep it like singular. I'll do that story by itself. Why are you running around so much? The kitty's running all around the place like a rocket ship. He's just running back and forth, and he's running outside and running inside. Anyway, so what are you all doing, man? Oh, fuck. You won't believe what I saw. I saw an AI that was so good. There's just, AI is just popping up all over. I saw an AI yesterday that was some artist guy made it. It was so creative. It was shockingly creative. I was like going, wow. I don't know if I could even rise to that level. It was so shockingly good, man. It was shocking. So I suggest you guys go out there and snoop around in the AI thing on YouTube. Just start typing in AI, and there's some people doing some fucking amazing stuff. Tomorrow I'll try to bring that name of that video I saw. It's a little 4-minute video, and it blew my mind, man. It was so good and so otherworldly. And it wasn't like Star Babes with these little foxy girls. It wasn't like that at all. It was just fucking totally artistic and cool. The reason I told you to watch Star Babes is just to let you see how realistic the people look. So you realize you could have any kind of people. They don't have to be like babes, They could be like any kind of people. And you can make them an AI, and they look good, man. They look real, Tell me those girls don't look real. I mean, fuck. They came out. I subscribed to that Star Babes channel because I'm really interested in AI. I've subscribed to a bunch of AI things, but that one, they came out with a new video yesterday. So if you go to Star Babes, they have a brand new video. It's a gold something. Anyway, they all look the same. The foxy little girls sauntering around. But just the thing is, it's an example of how realistic AI can look. That's why I suggest it. Anyway, I hope you guys are enthusiastic about AI because I am. I know you're enthusiastic about the past, and that's cool. I don't mind telling the stories about the old days, because I forget all those stories until you ask me questions. That's what I find so interesting. Like a lot of these stories I haven't thought about in 50 years, you know what I mean? And you ask me about them, and I go, wow, I remember that, or wow. Like Steve Miller, I never think about Steve Miller, but now I've been thinking about him for the last few days because you asked me the question, and I remember how much he hurt my feelings, Anyway, those are my stories. I'm being honest about it. Yeah. What else? Anyway, I like AI. I'm going to figure this thing out. See, I want to make a movie, man. I have 2 movies I want to make, and I can do it with AI, and otherwise I couldn't do it, man. Movies cost so much money to make, and I couldn't get the quality of actors I want or the voices. One of the troubles I have in the virtual world, like we got this virtual world, we got great visuals, but we don't have voices in there. And so I have to add voices to the great visuals. And the trouble is you have to hire voice actors, and then if you're ongoing, they're not available anymore anyways, you just lost, And so... and I don't have the money to hire voice actors. That's like doing a big movie. They get paid as much as real actors, So AI to me, man, it's good. I know the AI is going to be affecting all aspects of life, not just making movies and stuff, but for guys that want to make movies, man, it's another way to go, because you can do stuff that you couldn't afford to do in real life. So I guess I'm going to go. I don't know how long we've been doing it today, but those are the stories I told today. I answered your questions. I hope you appreciate it. I'll be honest about shit, if you don't mind me being honest, Anyway, you can see I don't do well when people don't like me, man. Like I keep thinking about Steve Miller. Like when I get negative comments, they bother me too. But I haven't gotten many. I've only got a few negative comments. I got a couple of negative comments when I said I was pro-choice, but I tried to explain why. That I thought those laws only affect poor people, but a couple of people were just not having any part of it. Murder's murder, and I go, yeah, I understand that, but that's how it was. So It didn't bother me too. That didn't bother me too much because I understood what I meant, and I guess they missed the point, and I missed their point. So, but I agree with them, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. Did you like today's podcast? Chime in there. Send me a comment. Oh, give me a thumbs up. I need those thumbs up. Somehow YouTube isn't telling people about my shit. We're growing so slow. I don't know what's up with YouTube. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I keep watching all these videos about how to make your channel grow and do this, do that. But, you know, I can't do all that shit. I can barely turn my computer on. So I can just get here and talk. So I hope that's enough. Obviously, it's not. We're not growing very fast. But it is what it is. I'm just who I am. So I really enjoyed today. I got to go do stuff in my real life. I'll see you all later. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend about it. Oh, please tell one. If each one of you would tell one person, we would be over 1,000. You know, even if they don't want to watch my stuff, if they could just subscribe to get us over the 1,000 mark, that would help. And if you press the like button, even if you don't like the segment, press like. It really helps too because the algorithm thinks somebody likes it, you know. So I know I'm repeating myself, but I notice everybody says that every podcast. They say, press the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. So I'm saying it too. I don't know. That's the best I can do. I don't know about all this computer stuff. And I'm trying to do AI. But yeah, I'm always reaching over my head. But anyway, I'm reaching. I'm going for it, trying to be creative. What is my maximum creativity? That's what I'm trying to achieve. I never quite get there, but I keep trying. So anyway, I love you all. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope you enjoy those stupid little stories about the past. But don't forget, that's the past and this is now. You know, it sort of makes me nostalgic when I tell the stories. I think, oh, yeah, they're okay. And I know that a lot of my viewers are older and they remember that era and they appreciate the stories and the answers. You know, as you know, I'm not running around thinking about that stuff all the time. I'm not thinking about the past actually at all. I never think about the past unless you ask me a question. I'm thinking about the future, and I wish I could live another 100 years because it's going to get wild, you know. But we can't, so here we are doing the best we can as long as we can. Anyway, I love you all. Oh, one of the people, oh, never mind. Yeah, one of the people said something really nice, and I liked it. I think you know who you are. You said something really, really sweet, and that was cool. Anyway, yeah. I like your comments. Keep them coming. Talk to you later. 3, 2, 1. Poof.